Alright, in today's episode, we will be building for an animal that I genuinely did not expect to build for at all. I didn't have any plans to build for it, but here we are. Today we are building for the BAIRD'S TAPIR in the South America section, so let's get right into it. Alright, so hello everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Oakwood Zoo. And I know it's been a bit, we skipped last week's episode, but to be fair, we had 2 weeks back to back before that we had 2 episodes each, so I feel like we could afford to miss a week. And I was also just kind of retracing my steps of where we want to go with the plans next, because we kind of just went over and over again with the new America's Animal Pack ones. We had the Saki Monkey, which was an amazing one that I was really excited to publish, so we did that, and it was amazing. I loved everybody's feedback on that one. And then we did the Bush Dogs and the Ocelot the following week, which was also really good. And we've kind of started a bunch of different projects. We had the America's Pavilion going on, which is technically what we were working on right now, even though the enclosure we're building for today is not really connected directly to the building. It is just connected in that loop that you would take around the building. And I'm going to talk about that in a second. And then we also started the Predator Passage, kind of little area there, which we built for the Ocelot, and we built the entrance to that section. A very small section is just going to be a path straight through the rainforest of the South American section. Again, South American section is all about rainforest, but in that path I really want it to feel just very tropical and very rainforest and very dense, and you can see some of the elusive predators from the region. So we already did the Ocelot for that section. There will be one more animal that we'll be adding. Technically, I've done a lot of switches with the plans, and honestly I can't really say anything in these videos about the plans for the future plans, because I feel they switch every time, because you'll notice that this video is not the one that I talked about in the last episode that was coming. So yeah, but my plan currently is for that the passage, kind of the Predator Passage area, to have the Ocelot, one more animal that will be mixed with another animal that is not a predator, but it kind of it fits together really well, and then maybe one more. I'm not sure, depending if I feel like it. But in today's episode, we built something that is very not in plans with what I had. This was originally supposed to be the American Flamingo Enclosure. So in case you haven't noticed by now, we are starting the boardwalk section of the America's Pavilion. The idea of this is the America's Pavilion, the inside part is going to be, I guess, the South America Pavilion. But the inside part of the building, you have the indoor section for the Saki, you have kind of a bunch, we're going to probably do a bunch of exhibit animals, and then you have an indoor area for the capybara, and then a caiman. So that's going to be kind of that inside part. On the outside of the building, you will have, again, another style of loop, which makes it pretty easy. You would take the outside loop first, and then you would go on the inside of the building, and then come back the same way you entered. I always really like buildings like that, because then I feel if you exit a different way, you feel you miss something. So even though you maybe didn't, I just feel it's a nicer feeling if you exit where you started. The previous version of this building, we had 2 entrances, or 2 an entrance and an exit in different spots, but I didn't really like that, so I kind of cut that out. I think it's still there in this episode, but in the next episode we'll cut it out, we'll delete it. But in this episode, this was originally supposed to be the Flamingo Enclosure, which is the thing I actually said we were gonna do in the last episode. But I was still pleased with the enclosure. I made the boardwalk, and that was super satisfying to make. It was super very nice. I was very pleased with that, and you'll see that I built a lot of that in the speed build part of the video, just this first part. So we have we use the aquatic walls, use the flooring, which is really nice. It makes a nice little plank kind of texture on the path. And then we used a lot of the tropical packs, logs, and I made a new fence using the new the plate, the window guard pieces from the America's pack. Those are super useful, and I've been trying to use this as many times as I can. But then again, I also trying to use them. I'm trying to savor them so I don't use too many of them, because it feels like another rock situation where I could end up using 1,000 of them, which I haven't done yet. So I gotta watch myself with that. But I really like the fence for that. It looks really nice. Especially the boardwalk is probably my favorite part of this enclosure, and probably the next upcoming enclosures, because those will also be regarding the boardwalk in this kind of section. But this was originally supposed to be the flamingo enclosure, so I made the boardwalk, I made the fencing, but then I realized it was kind of big for flamingos, and then I also didn't really know where to put the shelter. I wanted to do the shelter dead set in the center, like we have it in this enclosure, but it wasn't really, I just couldn't really see it with the flamingo enclosure. It's not, I didn't really like the design of it. I didn't like having a flamingo enclosure that was just really square and rectangular, and it's also just plain too big. I am okay with making enclosures that are a little bit bigger, but this one feels like a bit more excessive. So we will be definitely still doing the flamingos, do not worry about that, but we will be moving them a bit further down the boardwalk. The plans stay basically the exact same. The flamingo will still be in this boardwalk, it'll just be the second animal you see, and you'll see that at the end of cinematics, I actually kept the flamingo statue at that part where you enter the boardwalk or step up onto it, because the flamingos will still be there, and also because we don't have a tapir statue, which we each talked to Frontier about. But anyway, so on this boardwalk, it is going to be the same plans as we had before. It is just going to be plus the tapir, which is what we're building in today's episode. But overall, I think this worked as a really good failsafe. I actually did this at the time we're recording this is about the Sunday. I think this is releasing probably on Monday, so tomorrow, but previously on like the Saturday, I was working on something for the Rhea. It was another one of the new animals for the pack, and I got to an enclosure that I really liked in the design, and I didn't really feel like it was for the Rhea. So I changed it, and that is going to be for something else in a future episode. And I'm still building that currently, so I have no idea what that's going to look like in the end. But I do have a failsafe. I've been doing that a lot recently, where I built for something from the pack, and then it's just like, this doesn't look really that good, so I'll just switch it. It looks good, but it doesn't look like what I want to envision for the new animals. So I want to switch it for something else, and it still looks pretty good. That happened here because I wanted to reuse this for the tapir. If it wasn't for the tapir, there would be nothing here. I do still want to have the capybaras in the same spot as they were originally, in that spot where you come around back to the front of the building. So that will definitely still be there. Again, I'm going to redesign that whole part because I just don't really like, I don't really like the boardwalk part, that old boardwalk, which was like really weird concrete, and we used like weird angled concrete slabs and like the facades that were like 1,000 pieces. It just was not really, it wasn't helpful to the piece count, and it just did not look what it was worth. So I did end up deleting that, I think, in the next episode, which should be the flamingo enclosure. If there's no more like weird plan changes, which there shouldn't be, next episode of the series, maybe on Saturday actually, because I've been doing a decent amount of work on it, which should be the American flamingo enclosure. I've moved away from the idea of having it like being the entrance animal of the zoo. Maybe we'll use the greater flamingo for the entrance animal, but there are also a couple other entrance animals we could also do. I've been struggling where to put like the sea lions, because I haven't planned out any of the other sections, and I've honestly kind of zoned in on just finishing South America, because matter of fact, even though it seems like we have a lot of animals left, we really don't, just for South America. We have the flamingos. We have the rest of America's Pavilion to finish, which is probably the biggest project of this section of the zoo. We have the flamingos, capybaras, and the entire inside of the America's Pavilion, which probably will include the dwarf caiman and like an exhibit hall kind of thing. And then we will also have, we already have like the bush dogs and the ocelot. We will have to finish the predator passage area, which is maybe 1 or 2 more animals to that. And then there are a couple other loose ends that I want to add here and there, like that scrapped Rhea enclosure I was talking about, which I'll turn into something for another animal. And then also the last thing I want to build for is the brown-throated sloth. So make a cool like a sloth kind of house, or maybe like a sloth aviary or something like that. Not exactly sure what I'm going to do for that yet, but still figuring that out. So anyway, that's it for the future plans for this. I'm still debating going back and forth between a couple things. We can also have like the peccaries maybe, or like an armadillo, but we also already have an armadillo enclosure, which I do want to kind of move into the zoo. And then after we finish the South America section, then I will probably do a tour, and then I will release an updated version of the zoo to the workshop, including the new South America section, where I'm trying to release these in like, and I'm sorry I'm not talking about the enclosure too much here. I'm just really focused on the new plans for the series, or for this section. But I'm really trying to focus on, if I'm uploading the zoo to the workshop, or I'm uploading like versions of it, I really want to do like specific continents. Like we did Oceania, that was pretty much done, even though there are a couple of changes I want to make to it, and then we uploaded it. And then now we're doing South America. Once that's done, we'll upload it. I don't really know what the next section of this will be. I kind of want to take on Africa next, but it also depends on what the next DLC is, because that's going to be in like 6 months probably. So we'll have to wait a while for that. We could also tackle like North America. I'm probably going to save Eurasia to last, because I don't really, first of all, we built for a lot of those animals already, especially from like the Eurasia pack. So a lot of that's going to be like maybe moving enclosures that we've already built from other zoos into that one, or just like remaking new enclosures for the animals that we've already built for. But that's not really a lot of fun, especially because we haven't built for a lot of African animals yet. So that's going to be interesting. I haven't built a lot of good enclosures for African animals yet. So that would be something I would really like to do, especially branching onto that like ungulate kind of section we started with the pigs, the Red River hogs and the warthogs. I would love to make that huge section a lot more based of like ungulates. We could do like okapis, antelopes, a bunch of different kinds of stuff like that. But anyway, back to the actual topic of this video. So the tapirs. There's really not a lot to talk about tapirs because they're just kind of bland. I will admit this is probably one of the least exciting ones to add to the zoo, just because it's a base game animal. But again, it was a failsafe. It was something that I did not count on adding to the zoo, but it did end up working pretty well. And honestly, they seemed to enjoy the enclosure. I did have a bit of trouble with the traversable area with like some rocks, and also because I used the elephant grass. The one thing I also really like with this enclosure is the river, because I like the idea of it being like a wetlands kind of vibe. And then you can see the end of the wetlands on the other side against the building, so it comes to a lot more like marshy kind of grasslands kind of vibe with a lot of trees there, just to kind of give it a bit more, I don't know, lush vibes to kind of blend into the side of the building. So that looks pretty nice. And we used a lot of like moss, grunge pieces on like the dirt textures, but mostly on the water we used a lot of moss and a lot of the like the periwinkle leaves and the hostas to kind of blend into like that kind of like very lush, very green, murky kind of creek. But it honestly looks pretty good. And I'm going to continue this river throughout the next two enclosures, which will be the flamingos and the capybaras. Unless we take a break from one of those, I'm pretty sure the next enclosure is the flamingos. I don't see myself getting tired of that, and I'm really hoping I can get it out by the end of this week. I don't exactly know an exact roadmap for how May is going to go. I had, obviously within the DLC releasing last week, last month in April, I was like, just to get as many enclosures as we can, just make sure they're all really good and they're very high quality. And they are, and I really like them. And this is probably a bunch of my favorite enclosures that I've done yet, but with this May, with this next month, I really do not know what the direction is. My main goal is just to finish South America. That's the main thing. So we'll be building for all the stuff that I mentioned earlier, and then maybe figuring out where to go from there. And also I'm really excited about this because I like to make a tour when we're done, or not a tour, a trailer for South America. I always love making trailers for this. It's so exciting. I eventually, like a year and a half ago or whatever, I tried to do like a documentary series, which is like, first of all, you need a lot of patience for that, but also to make a documentary in Planet Zoo, I've seen a couple people do it, and it's phenomenal work. I honestly just respect the patience of people doing it, but I honestly really like the idea, and I tried to do it myself, but I did not have the patience for it at all. So I tried to make like a grasslands kind of biome, and I built something for like an hour, and then I put something like a manual, if I think it was, in it, and then I filmed it, and then it's just, oh my god, it wasn't bad. I mean, it was just like, I have to do this for like 3 more weeks, and it's like, I'm not doing that. So I ended up scrapping the idea, but I do like capturing the animals though. That's really nice, and especially in a zoo like this, and not just like in a random map, because that kind of takes away from the fun of it. But I do really like making the trailers, especially for like anything I build. That's why I liked the petting zoo so much that we did, which I will probably hopefully be moving into this zoo. I think that's probably going to be the last thing I do though, because I feel like it will weigh the piece count down a lot. We surprisingly are still doing really good with the piece count, and like the lag seems to be working. I haven't put any animals in. I put them in just to do the cinematic shots, and then I take them out. And then same thing with the staff, put them in, get the animals to their enclosures, and then I fire them after the animals are taken care of and like sent to the trade center. But we seem to be doing so far so good. I haven't really deleted anything new that was like from before. I've cleaned up a couple things like the rest of the entrance, because I know that that's going to be something we completely revamp, so that's going to be something I might as well delete the rest of it, which I did. So now there's nothing at the entrance, but to be fair, I'm going to be relocating the entrance anyway, so it's not going to be a huge thing to deal with. But yeah, that's pretty much it for like planning wise. The actual enclosure, I'm really satisfied with how this turned out. Again, the boardwalk is probably my favorite part of this. I especially like how you go around the Saki enclosure, and you're there with like the little staircases. It's not like a huge area where you go up. It's just 2 little staircases that kind of make an X pattern, and then you have a planter in the middle with the flamingo statue, and it looks really nice. It looks really, really cute. A good part of this is like the lookout for the tapirs. Once you go up the boardwalk, you can immediately turn left or straight, I guess, if you're coming from the other one, but you can go straight out and you can look at like the side view of the habitat instead of just a direct angle. But it looks really nice. I really liked it. I think it's pretty good. I didn't go too much detail with like any like facades or anything like that. I explored that with the flamingo enclosure as I'm building it, but I don't really think I'm going to do anything like that for that either, because it just doesn't really look too good. I've tried playing around like the new tent pieces from like the Zookeeper pack, but it's just they're too big and they're just too annoying to deal with, so I just rather not use them. Anyway, I think that's honestly pretty much it for what I have to say for this. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I really want to talk about here. The shelter for the BAIRD'S TAPIR enclosure, that was something that was really interesting. It was kind of hard to deal with the shelter because I couldn't really think of anything for a flamingo enclosure, and then I switched to the tapir, and then I was like, now I have to re-look at some new inspiration. I managed to actually find a decent shelter that I actually wanted to recreate for a while now. I had it saved on my Pinterest for a bit, waiting to use for like an antelope enclosure or something like that, and I did end up using it. It's not an exact replica because again, there's some pieces and stuff that I couldn't really do, and there's also some weird things that had, like, I did the roof overhang where, like, I'll throw the image up on screen obviously, the image that I referenced, but how the roof laid over top of like kind of like a facade just for the entrance part of the building. There's like these weird beams. They did the beams a weird way where it was like slanted, and then it just stopped at the wall, which it looks fine in real life obviously, but in Planet Zoo it looks kind of weird. So I tried to do it with like putting in more wooden beams to make it look a bit more natural and like better, but it just did not look better. And there was also some weird thing with like the gutter, and there was like a pipe that came out the side of it. I didn't include it in the speedbuild portion because I tried to focus on the parts that actually made it into the end cinematic shots. But it was just weird that they had like a pipe coming from the roof down to like a side column of the wall on the side, which I tried to do that, but it just didn't look right. It looked kind of weird, so I ended up scrapping it. So it's not an exact replication. I also only had half the building to work with, or half the picture to work with, so I made the facade of where they enter and then just used judgment to base on what the other half of the building looked like, and I honestly really liked it. The interior is not anything too special. Again, I don't try too hard in the interiors. I am trying to get better, but I just don't really have the patience, honestly, to do that kind of stuff, especially when it's not something you're really seeing from a guest point of view. So it's not something I really value too harshly. I did do some stuff with like tables and adding some different stuff, like props, obviously, like I always do, but it's nothing really unique than like stuff like that before. I think my probably favorite backstage area that I built is probably the ocelot enclosure. That was the last episode, because that one looked pretty good, and I did make an effort to make some new stuff for my backstage stuff. Like I made a new door, I made a new table, which is the table I use in this enclosure, or in this interior. I just make it a bit bigger. But yeah, I honestly think that's pretty much it for all I have to say. We've talked about future plans. Again, we should be expecting the new episode to be flamingos for the next one. I was already taking a bit of a break from building for the America's Pack animals. Again, it's not like we're running out of time or anything. We have 6 months probably until the next DLC, so we have lots of time to build for the stuff, and we've already built for 3 of them. We have another one coming the next episode, or should be, and then we will build for the last 3 after that, possibly. 2 of them are in like the North America section, which I haven't planned out yet at all, so that will be something else entirely, and we will build for the other one coming up in the South America section at some point. Not exactly sure what order I'm doing these things in, because I really just do what I feel like building. As long as it gets done at the end of the day, I am very pleased, and I'm very hoping that we can get this entire section done by the end of May. Really hoping. That's a big stretch, and it depends on if I actually decide to do a couple of animals on the fence on. But yeah. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed. I think that's pretty much all I have to say. If you did enjoy this video, I hope you were coming up on these cinematic shots here. If you did enjoy, please hit the subscribe button. It helps the channel out a lot. We have grown a drastic amount in the last couple of weeks since we've reached 2,000 subscribers, so I really thank you all for that immensely, because it means a lot to me, it means a lot to the channel, and it just means a lot to our growth, so we can keep continuing this series going forward. Anyway, I hope you all enjoy, and I will see you all in the next one. Cinematic shots at the end, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye guys, have a great rest of your day.